Hi there, Karen Flaherty from Living by Human Design. Hope you're doing well today. Today's Human Design weather is all about the gate 16, which is called enthusiasm. Okay, so in this week's Human Design weather, we've got the sun in gate 16, which comes off the side of the throat here, and it goes until June 2nd, started May 27th, goes until June 2nd. And we've got the earth in gate 9, which is a gate of focus down here, coming off the bottom of the sacral. So this week we kind of take a break. We've got no centers defined, and it stays that way all week. And only Pluto is in retrograde. So if you look at your own chart, you'll see that you probably have some gates that are hanging here that might match up with some of yours. That's where you'll get some interaction and some definition in the chart that you might not already have. Otherwise, for most of us, it's going to be pretty easy sailing. It'll feel like the way we usually are. So with this gate in 16, we call it enthusiasm or skills. In the original I Ching, it's in the channel of talent. It's the great art of enriching life by the harmonic channeling of energy. And so basically it's a combination of that entire channel. We call the channel of talent because it's enthusiasm along with the gate 48, which is depth. And that's getting to the bottom of things and really knowing a topic well. And then have the enthusiasm of the 16, which basically makes it all the more attractive to other people. And so we call this talent. And so in the incarnation crosses this week, we've got the cross of planning, enthusiasm, and identification. And in quantum human design, it's called zest. So the gate 9 is all about focus. And I'm sure we've dealt with this before, but it's the taming power of the small or energy for details, right? It's getting to really focus on a project or working on something that you've been wanting to focus on and being able to get down to it and get it completed. So it's also the potential that can be fulfilled through detailed attention to all pertinent aspects. So basically, taking the topic, pulling all the information in that you need to get it done, and then getting it done. And so it's a pretty potent force, actually, and to put it together, the focus together with enthusiasm, because they play nicely together, right? When you have enthusiasm for a topic and you've got the focus on a project that you're working on, they do come together quite nicely and allow you to get that project done. In the Gene Keys, inertia is the shadow for focus, determination is the gift, and invincibility is the CD. And in quantum human design, we call it narrowing. So basically narrowing the focus. So in the Gene Keys 16, the shadow here is indifference. And indifference is kind of a heavy word, right? We don't think of it kindly, right? It's not something that we want to see in people. It's not something that we want to portray to other people. Indifference can be pretty harsh. And so in a way, it's kind of the opposite of kindness, right? Indifference is really not caring, not wanting to care, and not really wanting to take any action toward changing that. And so I have this quote here from Elie Wiesel, who actually I believe he passed away, the Holocaust survivor and writer. And he says, this is a really potent quote, and so that's why I like to include it when we do this Gene Key 16, because the shadow is indifference, and that's on the low end of it. So he says, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. The opposite of art is not ugliness, it's indifference. The opposite of faith is not heresy, it's indifference. And the opposite of life is not death, it's indifference. So that's, again, pretty heavy stuff, and really allowing you to see that there's the opposite of these is really indifference, because when you lack love, it's not about the opposite emotion. There really is no opposite emotion to love. It's really indifference, right? It's the lack of love is indifference. The lack of art is in ugliness. It's indifference, right? There's just no creative force, and so that's indifference. The opposite of faith is not the emotion that goes with heresy. as much as it is indifference, right? It's just not having a faith, not having love, not having art, not having life is indifference. And so it's not death that's the opposite of life, but indifference. Anyway, back to the shadow of indifference. On the repressive side, the fearful side, we've got gullibility, which many of us probably are guilty of at one time or another, right? But we get fearful. So people get enthusiastic, and on the fearful side, we might think we're missing out on something, and so we get a little gullible for the people who are being enthusiastic, right? Or about the people who are being enthusiastic. And so we get gullible. We're like, oh, they're so excited about that. It must be a good thing, right? And on the reactive side, it's called self-deluded, because we may be lacking in enthusiasm, but not wanting to believe that you can even be enthusiastic about something, or that it's worth being enthusiastic about it. The gift is versatility, where we're able to then become enthusiastic about a number of different things. And so we call it versatility. And then the CD is actually mastery, which is the highest level. In the graphics, we see there are two quotes. Richard Rudd says, first, the more you expand into your talent, the more the universal field of consciousness responds, coming to meet you halfway. So it's like we're in this channel of talent with this gate of enthusiasm, or versatility, let's call it, and we're able to then take steps toward the talent or the passion that we think we want, and then basically the universe will meet us there. And he also says the highest form of versatility is to be a polymath, one whose genius spans multiple fields. And I say this a lot, that human design helps us to find our genius. And the thing is, a lot of us are not here to do just one thing. A lot of us have been able, at least a lot of my clients, and I'm sure a lot of you, have been able to put a number of things together and create a career out of that, or a hobby out of that, or something you're doing with family and friends out of that. The talents that we have are really multiply as we get more enthusiastic about them, and as we find our purpose and start to take those baby steps toward the passion. So just understand that once you start taking the steps toward the passion, first of all, the universe will meet you, and then you'll probably broaden your perspective so that you'll be able to see that you can do a lot of different things and not just one thing. So we've got a number of personalities born this week. President Kennedy, Dashiell Hammett, Marilyn Monroe, Morgan Freeman, Shields, who we'll be talking about, Clint Eastwood. A lot of these people had enthusiasm and passion, I would say, for the things that they became famous for, right? And if you notice, a lot of them, or a few of them at least, had multiple talents, like Lenny Kravitz, for example. He's a musician. He is a singer. He has done some acting roles as well. And he basically keeps recreating himself. Every time I see him, he's doing something different. Clint Eastwood, who's now in his 90s and still, I don't think he's done any movies lately, but I know he did the last movie at 90 that he produced. So that's a pretty long-lived career in terms of producing, directing, writing, and acting. So there are a number of polymaths within this group. So let's talk a little bit about Brooke Shields, who was born May 31st, 1965. She was born in New York City. She's a manifester. I was a little surprised to see that, with a 5-1 profile. Not so surprised to see that. And the left ankle cross of identification. You probably know her or remember her from her modeling days, or perhaps from her TV or films, which I couldn't believe she's actually done 45 films. She's had her own series in TV, and was actually in a number of other programs as well. She's an actress, producer, author, entrepreneur, and is turning 58. So taking a look at her chart, what she is somebody who's got a lot of individual energy. She's got the the 6447, which is a collective energy. She's got the 4323, which is individual, 1-8 channel. So 4323 is structuring, also called freak to genius. So she's very bright. She did graduate from Princeton. She's got the 1-8 here, which is making a creative contribution to the world. And then she's got this 1222, which is also an individual channel called the channel of openness. It's a combination of charm and grace, which he has had throughout her career, and the 12, which is all about being careful about your reputation, which is not always been easy for her. And then she has the 4037, which is all about contracts and negotiation and basically keeping your promises. And she has that, but that's a tribal channel because it's part of the business circuit. So actually the only tribal channel she has is the business circuit. She has nothing as a manifestor. She does not have the sacral defined, right? But she also doesn't have any part of the defense circuit, which would be the 59-6 or the 50-27. She doesn't have any of those gates. She also has the open spleen, and it's completely open, which could have her being fearful at times or being very fearless. And I think she's probably gone between the two quite often. And she also has the open root, and that's also completely open. No gate activation there at all. Interesting, off the sacral, she's just got the 9, which is that gate of focus, right? Because she's got the 16 up here plus the 9. And then she's got the gate 5, which is all about being in a pattern or rhythm with your eating and sleeping and basically all of your life. I don't know that she was able to have that growing up, but I know that her mother, while she was her manager and had her own ways of dealing with Brooke's success, and really was the one to push her in the very beginning because she was a model at 11 months old. She also was very protective of Brooke, and had her go to public schools, and I say protective in some ways, and obviously not in other ways, because some of the things that have come out recently have shown that she was not as protective with regard to her nude scenes and with protecting her reputation, basically. And as a result, because she was a manifester, I would say, she basically fired her mother. I'm not exactly sure how old she was at that point, but I think it was her early 20s. She basically fired her mother as her manager and told her that she would take it over on her own. She cleared her mother's, I heard her in an interview recently, she cleared her mother's office out one night and just basically told her not to come back, and managed herself, and found a new manager and was able to carry on then on her own. So and her mother, the response to that was, while she was quite upset, she goes, well, that took chutzpah to do that. And so she was proud of her in a way. They did get back together and they've had a relationship since, but it was basically a turning point for her in her career. So, but kind of to be expected as a manifester, right? The manifester was not going to put up with, I don't know her mother's chart, but she wasn't going to be put up with being managed by anyone, really. So it was, perhaps a difficult time for her, a difficult thing for her to do, but she did it. She also has the gate of the Queen here with the gate 45. She's got the 16, obviously, with the enthusiasm right up in her conscious sun. And then off the solar plexus. So she's got 2 channels, right, that go into the solar plexus, the 1222 and the 4037. So the 4037 would be kind of a mild wave, whereas the 1222, that's a little more difficult to deal with because that's high highs and low lows. She's actually got the 55 twice, both in her moon up here, and she's got it here in her Venus, and then in her Chiron, she's got the gate 22, which makes sense for 1965. So this is, again, the gate of charm and grace. So she learned how to be, in the first 50 years, she learned how to be charming and graceful. and certainly was in many respects charming and graceful along the way, but she's probably come much more into that now, where she's able to do interviews and do another book and become the entrepreneur that she wanted to be. And as a manifester, that's really what she's here to do, right? She happens to be an icon, beautiful, and did a lot of work modeling and as an actress, parlaying that beauty into different roles. But she also is somebody with a great head on her shoulders and wants to use that brilliance, those street smarts, everything she's learned during her career now to help others, to teach others, and to make continue her own career. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that 5-1 profile. The 5-1 profile, as you might know, is the 5 is the heretic, and the 1 is the investigator. She is bright and investigates things from what I can see. But the 5 was really tough to deal with as an actress, because people were always projecting onto her. I mean, people were projecting onto her from a very early age, and I would say that as a result, she wasn't protected as a child. She didn't have the same protections that some other children would have or would have had in those circumstances. She definitely was moving into roles that were very mature for her. As a manifester, she probably was able to act a lot older than her age. She certainly looked a lot older than her age once they put makeup on her. But whether she was really ready for that or not, it sounds like she wasn't. Anyway, so people were projecting onto her that she could do things, that she was capable, that she wanted them, for example, things like that. Those are the kinds of projections that can hurt people in the long run, because that doesn't serve her. So happy birthday, Brooke. Hope it's a good one for you. And for you this week, please be aware of the enthusiasm that might crop up. That's going to kind of be in the air this week. We'll see how it plays out. And if it plays out for you with some project or in some way, embrace it and watch other people who might actually be having feeling that enthusiasm as well. So have a great week, and I will talk to you next time. Be well.